I'm going to apply some pressure at the base now with my fingertips. And what I'll talk about as we look at different techniques and strategies is almost dealing with the wheel head as a clock face. And so when I apply pressure with my fingertips here, I'm going to be moving my fingertips, as it were, if 12 o'clock was ahead of me, I'm going to be moving my fingertips towards the 3 o'clock position on the dial, on the wheel, as it were. Okay, so fingertips in the bottom there. And what you'll see very clearly from this point is the linkage between the hands as well. So I wouldn't have one hand just applying pressure without support from the other hand. I've got the support from the tray, from my body, and I've got support from the hands as well. So I'm going to move those fingertips and apply pressure and move those fingertips out, keeping them level, keeping it flat across the base, moving that out to the 3 o'clock position. So I have a flat base for this cylinder I'll be working with. What I'll do at this point is I'll cone that clay back in, so I'll apply pressure from either side, from 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock as it were, but also pressure through the whole hand as it brings the clay back in. And this technique of coning the clay back in is key to being able to control the clay. So every time you feel the clay slightly coming out of control for you, the technique of coning the clay back in is always going to help you regain that control over the clay. So I've opened the clay up, I've coned it back in. Now I'm ready to take a lift up through the clay. So to apply pressure and lift the clay and thin the clay as I move my fingers through the clay. In order to do this, I'll also be working from that 3 o'clock type position to be thinning the clay. Other people may well be applying the same action and feel much more comfortable applying a similar type of action and working maybe from, as it were, a 6 o'clock type position to thin the clay. So it's important again to experiment with different variabilities, because essentially it's the same technique, but you may feel more comfortable with one than with another. And also with that in mind, I'll nearly always use my fingertips more. Other people may well use a knuckle as a point of pressure, especially from the outside when they're thinning the clay. So I'll apply a little bit of water again there to help the lubricant. Inside the pot itself, I've got a point of pressure against my middle finger and my forefinger on my right hand. And so I'll apply that pressure, equal pressure between the two. And I think one of the fundamental things I found over the years with many different learners is to kind of think about this as a kind of finding a point of pressure and controlling and moving that point of pressure rather than physically pulling the clay back up. It's more about finding a point of pressure, controlling that pressure, controlling the support of it from the tray and from your body, and then moving that point of pressure through the clay. So establishing a point of pressure here between those 2 points on the inside and outside, and moving that pressure up through the clay to the top. And as you can see from that, by the action of thinning the clay, it's opened it up from that more conical position to being a more open cylindrical position. So if I wanted to, again, now as I do want to thin the clay again, I'll need to cone that clay back in again. So applying some pressure from the bottom, equal balanced pressure from both hands, coning that clay back in. And now I'm ready to take another lift up through the clay. This time, obviously, the clay's going to be that much thinner, and so it's even more important the balance and support that I have from the tray and from my body as I thin the clay this second time.